Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is King Wabi from Because of Bitcoin, and welcome back to the channel. I'm here joined by Shadow, and today is our first edition of Market Watch, where once a week in a pre-recorded stream, myself and somebody else from the content creation space, trading space, investing space in the digital asset realm, known as cryptocurrency, is going to be here joining me and giving their views on the current market as well as their thesis. So if you guys want to keep in touch with this kind of content, go ahead and smash that like button down below and hit subscribe. Shout out to our Discord, shout out to our YouTube, and shout out to our Twitter community. So, Shadow, what's going on, brother? We've had Bitcoin kind of teeter totter around all time highs. We're having meme coins going absolutely parabolic, man. So, how are you, man? It's been almost a year since we've collaborated, brother. What are your thoughts on the last 12 months?
Yeah, so first thing is thanks for hosting me again. It's nice to be here chatting to you. Last time we spoke, it was in the depths of the bear market, and I think I remember basically saying, what else can we do other than risk? When risk to reward is given. I think that's how I ended the conversation with you. And since then, I've been following my own quotes essentially, and what is there to do other than risk, right? So yeah, it's been a good year. It's been a good year so far. I think anyone that's been able to stay solvent during the depression is getting paid off well right now, and we've smashed through all-time highs. So it's definitely an interesting point to circle back around and have a discussion.
Yeah, great stuff, man. So I guess we can touch upon narratives, right? When we talk narratives in the crypto market, a lot of people can't really put a firm grasp on what a narrative is. And, being that you and me, we like to hit the gym a little bit, the way a muscle grows is time under tension. And with things that trend in the crypto space throughout the cycle, it's time under attention, right? So, what are
Hmm.
some narratives right now that you've been viewing over the last couple of quarters that are starting to catch some wins in the crypto space, brother?
So I think we can agree on this, but these are narratives that are worldwide, right, at the moment. So the three narratives that money is due to flow into, in my opinion, and also the opinion of very many other smart people, is one, AI, because of course we're on the ascent of a new era where AI is becoming popular. So we have a sentiment bleed into crypto because of it. Number two, which is meme coins, because meme coins are the symbol of financial freedom to just normal people, right? Bitcoin is not a symbol to financial freedom because it isn't plastered over the news as saying, hey, look, Slumdoge millionaire got 5 million off this shitcoin ape, right? You don't really see that with BTC. So it's the symbol of freedom for people that are not financially savvy. And therefore, liquidity is due to flow into them and will continue to flow into them. And then the third one is gaming, right? So in this world today, right now, we have an untapped market, and those are gamers, right? We're talking about 16 to 22. The people that the cycle perhaps left out last time is staring right in front of us with a black hole, waiting to take the liquidity of people that are interested in gaming and also getting financially rich from being degenerate. So those are the three narratives. And, as you said, people don't really understand what narratives are. Narratives are just a reason for people to commit capital into one type of play or asset versus something else. And it is the reason why they do it. It is the belief why they do it and the support around that belief, right? So if you look at, for example, meme coins, right? The narrative is very, very strong because it's simple and it's dominated by riches, right? The idea of meme coins are fun, okay, humor, it's degenerate culture, and it's riches all in one, right? And the idea of getting lazy whilst having euphoric fun and becoming rich at the same time is something that appeals to nearly everyone on the planet, right? And so that's why it becomes narrative, because people want to believe and do believe that that is going to occur, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's the reason why people commit their money to certain assets or things.
Yeah, if we take a look at the trends that happen over in the real world, that's really relatable, right? We can start off with AI, right? It was one of the first few narratives that kicked off in the bottom in late 2022 with ChatGPT. And since that time, right, we've seen names like Tao, we've seen names like Render, and a few others, and also Fetch AI, which is a play that we've recently gotten into, and they've just been tearing through everything, man. It's like these projects don't really do much in the real world, but with crypto, right? I kind of view crypto as it's like the digital version of a casino where I'm not able to take a $1,000 flight to Las Vegas, put room and board and all that stuff to gamble a couple $100s, right? But I am able to put that amount where I would save on my flights and my room and board and all that stuff into Coinbase, put it into a Phantom wallet or a MetaMask wallet, and just gamble like that. And I think with what we're seeing in the gaming space, right? And Apple recently released their Apple Vision product. Everybody wants everything streamlined. So it's like, you use one device and you're just forced to go through these motions, right? Where everything is gamified. And I feel like crypto is going alongside that route, man. But I know you want to share a few charts, man. So feel free to share anything that you would like, brother. I know you've recently started getting some good heat. I know with Katana Inu, that's been making some good wins in the gaming space, man. And, with a lot of these crypto games, they're not really fun, but now years and years later, because crypto gaming has always been a thing since like 2017 with the Decentraland, but now you're actually starting to see product where the consumer is able to use it and say, hey, this game reminds me of Fortnite, this game reminds me of XYZ game, man. So I think second half of 2024, early 2025, I think you're going to be able to see a lot of these games in the hands of consumers.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's so much innovation going on in the industry right now. I think people that have been hating on gaming coins, right, in general, I think in 2022 and 2023, people were saying, why would you, buy gaming coins? It seems like an endless job to sift things that actually work. These games look like shit. But the thing is, right, is there are thousands of gaming projects, thousands and thousands. Out of them, there is going to be a very good chance, like Alex Becker uses as his slogan, there's going to be a very, very good chance that one of them blow up, right? There is billions of dollars flowing into Web3 gaming, and it's one of the reasons why I'm bullish. As we said about narratives and whatever, right? One of the main narratives is being first in the game. Everyone's fighting over a cookie and they don't want to be last, and this is how the game runs, basically. So when I'm looking at charts, I know you said feel free to share charts, and I'll do so in a minute. What I'm usually looking for in the market are those bets that you can anticipate people are going to be fighting over, right? They don't want to be lost. Yeah, maybe they don't believe in it for 10 years, but they know it is a narrative that will catch fire, right? And if I share the Katana chart here, right, because you referenced it, let me just share my screen. And this share that I'm going to do now, it can be transposed into many other charts, right? But let's look at Katana, right? So I'm only going to spend 1 or 2 minutes on this chart because this is not a chance to shill things. But if you look at this chart, you have a fresh chart, right? So this is something I'm looking for on the market at the moment. You have a fresh chart, which means that most of the trapped buyers, right, that come with many cycles. So usually in a cycle, you have people that buy, and then what happens is the trend just dips, it shits the bed. And of course, you get people buying as it shits the bed, and they're trapped, right? And what happens then is, as price makes its way back up, it runs into those trap buyers and has a lot of issues. But with coins like this that are, number one, new, and number two, fulfill that narrative. So number one, new, and then number two, fulfill the narrative of being something that appeals to a lot of people because it looks, right? It looks attractive. Number two, has a narrative where we feel as if people may realize when it's too late that this thing is a good bet. And then three, the project itself is quality. So it's mispriced, in accordance to a short-term or long-term narrative, then I commit. And Katana is one of them that I had highlighted. This was going to happen to a long time around here, right? So around the lows. And there are many charts that fill this. And this is, as many of you know, something that unites the biggest narratives in Web3, which is memes and gaming. And it does both in a very good fashion. There's no other projects at the moment that combine these two in such a way as Katana has. So it's an example of what I'm looking for. I'm really looking for the places that make sense to people that don't think too much. Yeah. Capital in a bull market, as you know, is agnostic, right? Agnostic meaning it doesn't think too much. Yeah. It can religion hop as much as it wants. It doesn't have a set place to go into. It just apes into what makes sense. So really just reducing my IQ for this point in the cycle and playing where I believe the money will flow based on the most easily understood narratives.
Yeah, man, that's actually an interesting combination, memes and gaming, right? For myself in the gaming space, one of the exposures that I have is Prime. I think they have a
Beautiful
game
project.
called Parallel, and
Yeah.
I got into this thing back after the Echo Bubble in the summertime, right around September. And the way I found it was through Twitter Spaces because a lot of their guys they love community, and I feel like Shadow a lot of the complex super VC where they raise like 100 mil, but for some reason their FDV is at like in the multiple billions, which makes zero sense by the way. Like they don't know how to pitch the product to the consumer. Whether it's
Mm-hmm.
Prime, they do a lot of community work, and it's like raising money is all fine and dandy, but all that money is useless if we don't have a product to sustain the project's vision, over the long term. And, now they're using AI agents to facilitate. I think they have their colony upgrade, and they're going to be
Mm-hmm.
using AI agents to facilitate a lot of the battles that they'll have. It's not only a card game, but it's also a shooting game as well, and they have a few other mini games in there as well. So it's one of those things where I thought, okay, they have the community stuff down and the game actually looks cool and they have a cult community on Twitch. And I feel like with crypto gaming, their focus has to be people in the real world and not so much crypto natives because the crypto natives, they will fulfill price going up, right? They're the ones that are going to have, you know, the ability to make this as hype as possible where people that are interested in other narratives come to theirs. But as far as like duration throughout the cycle, it's going to be people outside in the normal world, and that's why meme coins caught so much attention in the last cycle, more so than anything else. It's because people in the real world were paying attention to them. So even though you had things like AVAX and Luna and Phantom reach billions of dollars in valuation, it wasn't really known to the real world as much as the meme coins, right? And I feel
Mm-hmm.
like gaming is following that standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
and they're also combining things that are applicable to the real world, like the stock market, right? With AI, you have Nvidia, which has been going parabolic. So I feel like crypto right now is going through its maturation phase where it's actually integrating some narratives from TradFi to hopefully be a more established asset class. So yeah, as you can see, guys, Prime is Prime, right? So as far as like majors go, Shadow, if you look at things like Bitcoin, ETH, and other majors, the only thing that you can say is really different, right, is Bitcoin front running the all time high before the halving, right? But there are still some key metrics that haven't been hit yet, right? Like total three, which is everything excluding BTC and ETH, that hasn't made an all time high. ETH, of course, hasn't made an all time high, and there's always a quote unquote normie token that when it makes an all time high, all the dumb retail floods in. And last cycle, that was Cardano. And I feel like for this cycle, it's likely Solana. And I understand the context is a bit different, right? Like there's not really much build in Cardano. And with Solana, there's actually some good consumer apps and memes and all that stuff. But I think the context, as far as like, turning on like normie retail brains on to come back into crypto. I think the stars are aligning somewhat, but I think it's going to take a bit more time than people want to expect because honestly, Bitcoin has something right now going for it that the rest of the market doesn't, which is, agreeable information that there's actual demand with real dollars from TradFi through the ETF, man. So where do you think we're at in this cycle, man, versus other cycles in the past that you've
So,
experienced?
are you referring to BTC or altcoins with that question, or both of them?
So I would say like broader market, right? Everything outside of Bitcoin.
Okay, so you're talking about altcoins, right?
Yeah.
Right. So with the alts, there are a few things I have to share, right? And the first one is, tried and tested. As BTC is going up and blasting past all-time highs, altcoins usually follow, right? So I'm not going to get a comparison chart up, but if you get that up, that is what occurs. This cycle, people are debating whether the same will happen, right? Because they're saying that the new capital entering into the game is essentially locked within ETF funds, right? It's locked. However, I think that is 1 degree short of the truth because yes, you get money locked within ETF funds, but as BTC goes up, what happens, right? Headlines start to promote that BTC is going up. And what do the headlines bring? The headlines bring retail in whatever format retail is expressed in. So you could say we're retail, but really what I mean is, very, very casual participants, right? It brings them in. And so, what we're really looking at for altcoins is the ability for crypto to market itself as a financial freedom vehicle. As long as that occurs, you will see people flood in. Perhaps, it's not the same as before. But certainly, yeah, I think altcoins are primed to go up a lot more. Now, this may not be dinosaur coins such as Cardano and other stuff. There are definitely new narratives and new coins that I think are going to absorb that based on what are the easiest things to connect to, just as you basically inferred. What's the easiest for retail people to connect to? Again, it's AI, which has a crossover into the stock world. It's gaming, which has a crossover into the real world and what people can connect to. And then, it's perhaps other small narratives that we could discuss, but we can stick to those two right now because they're the strongest. So within that, yeah, I think that we're setting up for an all-time high. Will it happen right now? I don't know, right? Maybe we did, maybe we don't. But certainly, in my opinion, having exposure to altcoins is a smart thing. If I were to say to you, right, well, where do I think this is going? Well, I think we're going to take our all-time high. How that expresses itself, I do not know, but I'm committed to both narratives and looking for opportunities that do not have, heavy charts that are fundamentally sound and have strong marketing support. Because the truth about this industry, as you talked about with Prime just now, is it's really down to quote unquote the community, which is what? Free marketing, right? So I think a few accounts have said this recently, but in this industry, it's not really about, it is about the product, but in this industry and most other industries, it's more about who shouts the loudest, because that is what gives people the signal, yeah, or the retail participants we were talking about, the signal to FOMO into these coins, yeah. Now, morality aside, they do this and get dumped on, fine, that's how the game works. But that is how I'm thinking about the cycle right now. And so we could say, all right, well, where do I think the separate narratives are going? Well, the Web3 gaming total market cap at the moment is minuscule, right? It's $30 billion. And if you look at meme coins, for example, let me just find Doge, right? So
I think CoinGecko also has they've done this really nice thing where they've divided all the subsectors within crypto. So if you
yeah,
go on
yeah, I've got it here.
CoinGecko, they've
Yeah,
got
I've got
like
it here.
all kinds of stuff. It's
So
crazy.
Doge, yeah, is at 20 billion right now, right? GameFi is at 30 billion. And AI, let me just quote this because I'm on there right now. AI is right 25 billion. So AI, which is in my opinion the strongest narrative among all three of them, because it's the easiest to connect to, in my opinion, right? Other people may think that's GameFi, but I think it's AI. it's almost the same market cap of Doge. Yeah. And you're talking about a boiling pot of all the innovation going on within a sector is almost the same market cap as a single meme coin. And I know that's a buzz factor that has been, doing the rounds, but it's true. It's absolutely true. And if we look at, for example, last cycle, some of these meme coins, there was so much liquidity flowing in. So the point is that if we expect more liquidity to flow in this cycle compared to the last one, so let's say now the market cap reaches 3 trillion or 4 trillion total market cap, at some point, the money is going to flow down into what makes sense, right? So my approach is to just keep positioning myself in these charts to capture that rush. However, there is always the possibility that something happens and this occurs and the market just goes to shit. I mean, everyone is very cocky until something bad happens, right? I'm not saying I think that's very low probability for now, but because of that, I'm making sure that I'm regularly taking out profits whilst also having some very low IQ exposure to the market in order to take that money flow and benefit from the money flowing into exchanges in the way that I just talked about, which was linked to the 3 bubbles I made about retail and money flows and BTC. So,
Man, so if we decipher this cycle down and we take it to like a baseball game, right, where there's 9 innings for the entire game, which inning do you think we're at? Do you think we're at the 3rd inning? Do you think we're at the halfway point? What does your gut say? Because I know for the individuals that have been here since the 2016, 2017 cycle, we sort of inherited this muscle memory where we just get these massive gut feelings, and more so often than not, they do tend to be more right compared to other crypto classes from like 2013 and all that stuff.
My gut feeling says we're about 65% to 70% of the way through this cycle. And that doesn't mean that gains are not coming, right? Because it's usually at the last point of the cycle where things start to get a bit ridiculous, right? So that doesn't, just I'm saying that most of the cycle's done. It doesn't mean most of the gains are done. But I think via time, people make the mistake in thinking that a bull market starts here. Well, it doesn't, right? A bull market starts the moment that reaccumulation begins, which is round about here, right? Because we usually measure bull markets from the lows to the highs, or the point at which we do higher lows. So if you measure from that area, right, you could theorize we've been in a bull market for a year and a half right now. But anyway, instinctually, 65 to 70%. If you look at Ethereum BTC right now, right, it's in this massive falling wedge, right? I know that you've seen this chart multiple times. 2 things that can happen here, right? If BTC just takes off, well, then it's going to suffer, but it will fill this inefficiency. And if not, if we break out on ETH BTC, well, then it's send time for alts. Within that, I'm expecting a lot of volatility. There's going to be some point us receiving a 40% dip on altcoins, and it's going to be the time we least expect. So I'm also positioned for this time with the appropriate cash. So 65 to 70% through, and as a result, I'm not getting rid of a lot, but I'm prepared. I'm prepared for the volatility to come.
Man, let me ask you this now that we're looking at Ethereum. Do you have any dubious speculation as to why, the number 2 asset in the crypto space has really just been bleeding against everything the entire cycle, especially towards things like Solana? Do you think Ethereum at some point will have that outperformance as it did in February, right? February, I think ETH outperformed Sol by like 30-40%, and now it basically gave all those gains back. So what are your thoughts on Ethereum's prospect for the cycle?
Well, number one, I think it's just harder to move, right? It's just harder to move than most of these other altcoins. It's too efficient. There's so many participants on both sides with Ethereum that's natural anyway. As the market cap expands, it's more difficult to move. Number 2 is, the narrative surrounding Ethereum hasn't been the strongest, So when I go onto Twitter, I'm only talking about myself. I'm not a tech head, so please get that understood. But when I go on Twitter, what do I see, right? I see people posting pictures of ETH gas fees.
Yeah.
That's not the best marketing in the world. That is their prime marketing right now, right? Their prime marketing isn't, hey, we're the future of finance or the future of the decentralized blockchain. It's, hey, look at these fees, right? And
Yeah.
that just injures the volume flow through it. It injures the ability for people to want to leverage it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But also, it could just be lagging until compression, which is what we're finding now. Some things take their time. It's just how things work. I don't think it will flip BTC, if I'm honest. A lot of people have speculated that throughout the years, but I
Yeah.
think it's just too efficient, and the narrative is not as explosive as it was before. So
Yeah.
there we
'Cause
go.
even with something like Bitcoin and what Bitcoin has going for it on its base layer, people are actually now able to ape altcoins and NFTs on Bitcoin through things like ordinals and BRC20s. And of course, like when we talk about fees and all that stuff, you're right. All I see on Twitter is like, hey, we have this new upgrade coming to Ethereum where you'll be able to save fees, but it's on a layer two. And I understand that retail eventually does know how to use these more complex systems, right? We had grandmas teaching people how to bridge to AVAX on TikTok at the height of last cycle. But the fact of the matter is, there's just so many other platforms right now
Mm-hmm.
where you're able to do the basic needs that are facilitated through L1s, which is basically just buying data on that native chain, right? People go to Solana to buy memes. People go
Mm,
to AVAX to buy gaming tokens and memes.
mm,
It's mainly just to buy another token, right? There's not really much like DeFi going on as it was
mm-hmm.
last cycle. If you remember, like all those crazy yield farms and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Have you been like doing that stuff or not really? It's just
Nah,
been like spot and
Nah,
chill
I
for
don't
you.
believe in free money, man. I stay away from any time. I know you can get quote unquote free money from, for example, longing and shorting at the same time and collecting funding and stuff like that. I don't mean that, but I mean whenever I see anything in the market that says to me, "Hey," dangles a carrot to me and says, "All this money for no work." Yeah, I've never believed in that principle in my entire life. I don't believe anything in the market is free. If anything appears that way, I stay away from it. That's it. That's simple. That saved me from locking up my money in VeChain nodes, for example, in 2017. It
Oof.
stopped me from locking my money up in long vesting. It stops me from locking my money up in high yields that get hacked or just get drained or some stupid shit happens. It stopped me from a lot believing that. So no, I don't participate in the yield stuff. To be honest, my skills are better than that. Yeah, I don't need to lock up, let's say 100 200,000 in something that's yielding 50% a year, because these shitcoins are moving off support levels that in a single day, right? I don't think it's required to shut your money off like that, especially in this kind of market. So
Yeah, I don't really see that stuff being as fruitful as it was last cycle. And even with like some of these new L2s that are promising that, those protocols are quickly getting rugged and all that stuff. I think like when we talk about being early in the cycle, I know you said that we're like you think we're 2/3 of the way there.
mm-hmm.
By that time, you usually already know what's going to be fruitful for the entirety of the cycle, right? So, outside of that, man, if we can cover Bitcoin for a little bit, currently
Sure.
right now, it's March 16th, 2024. If you guys are watching this at a different date, Bitcoin's kind of just been ping ponging around its old all time high of 69K, give or take a few $1,000. So, if you look at this chart, Shadow, where do you think we might be headed going into the halving? The halving is about 4.5 weeks away, man. What are your thoughts more short term?
So I honestly have zero idea. Right? I honestly have zero idea. The reason why is because I've got to before I talk about Bitcoin, I've got to start talking about the table that we're sitting at right now. Right? We have a boiling pot with the largest financial institutions in the world. We have an inferred climate where perhaps nation states are going to start competing for BTC, and we have seriously diminishing supply. Like this is the first time I have ever seen via figures that the supply versus the demand are heavily outmatched. Heavily outmatched. We don't just have Sailor in now; we have BlackRock and the inference of many others to come. Right. So with that, I think it's not smart to believe the same thing is gonna happen. Whether that's crossing all-time high and us just going straight away parabolic, or whether that's the same 35 to 40% retraces we usually get because now our market's more efficient. I don't know, right? I don't have any idea. If we were to go by some very simple metrics, right? So let's see if I can find my chart. So here's where the halving has ended. So you see these green boxes, yeah?
Yeah.
End of the halving, parabola. End of the halving, parabola. End of the halving. Okay, maybe there's some problems just as we get into the halving, but parabola, right? Is there a reason to think that something different changes in the strongest fundamental climate we've ever seen for BTC? I don't think so, right? The only thing I am thinking is at some point we're going to get a flush, right? I want to be positioned for that flush, and that's the only thing that I'm worrying about with BTC right now. The reason why I'm being vague here is this is what I said to a few people this morning too, is with BTC and crypto in general, I think it pays to be smart when we're here, and it pays to be smart when we're here, right? And you want to keep developing a thesis for the highs and the lows. But when there is a high probability that we're going much higher, right? And much higher, me saying that, it means basically, look, crypto is at 1.5 trillion right now. Gold is at 15 trillion. And basically, this appears to me at the moment to be a changeover of, boomers had their money locked in gold, right? I think the new generation will look towards the online version of gold as BTC, right? So we're in very early stages on the institutional stage, and I think that has to be kept in mind. And so with that being the case, I think there's a high probability that we're somewhere here, right? Meaning, does it really matter what we think short term, during the halving? Maybe we dip, maybe we don't. I have no idea. But I'm thinking that we go significantly higher from here,
Exactly, man. Higher than people expect, honestly, man. I think just from the structure that we're looking at, right? We're looking at the 2-week right now, guys. In case you're only listening to the audio, we're looking at the 2-week. If you look at something as simple as a 2-week, right? Like this thing just wants to pop off immediately, right? And it kind of has like a much cleaner structure compared to 2020, 2021, where it was basically up only, back to back to back to back to back. Whereas this, it's really reminiscent of the 2016, 2017 cycle, where it's more of like a C-shaped pattern, right? And then it's just slowly chugging up along. And a lot of the dips, if anyone listening was active in 2017, a lot of the dips were eaten up in a few days, right? Like you'd buy an altcoin, you'd be up 10x, 15x, and then in a day you'd be down, well, not down, you'd be 60% below your peak net worth at the time, and then within a few days you would be like triple or quadruple of where you were at before. So I think when we relate that to BTC, I think like, any of these 15-20% dips that we've been seeing in the market, they're quickly eaten back up, and they typically happen going into the new week, right? Like a lot of people tend to sell off their Bitcoin going into the weekend now, thinking, oh man, TradFi is not here to bid my coins. And then Monday, Larry Fink turns on the green button with his buddies. So you're definitely making a lot of sense, where it's like, don't fret too much about the short term, because for now you just have a lot of things cooking right now for the crypto space.
Right. And I mean, look, short term, if you really want to talk short term, we've just had an all-time, on the 2-week chart at least, right? We've just had a full-bodied candle close above the previous all-time high area, right? In the most fundamental bullish environment that we've had. And maybe the ETF stop, and maybe BlackRock ruin their reputation. Maybe, the whole thing, fucks itself. Maybe, right? Excuse the French, but at some point you just have to accept things as the way they are, and just write it out based on the info that you have right now. So everything you just said, I completely agree with. And to be honest, right, you were referring to 2017. It feels the exact same way as 2017 did. The pattern feels similar. and it was literally like it was far different. I can't explain how it felt, the difference, but this cycle feels much more similar to 2017 than it did to 2019 than it has to 2019 because it's yeah, I think we're just going to go up only from here, man. Honestly, I
Yeah.
don't think the pullbacks are going to be as steep. If you're asking me from an instinctual point, I do not think the pullbacks are going to be as steep as they have been in the previous market because I think we have more competitive buyers right now. And yes, the market is the expression of buyers versus sellers. So the argument that we have more buyers right now could also mean we have more sellers. But I think we have more sideline capital than people are fully understanding right now. If you look at this from the view of many countries, yeah, let's say USA, let's say Lithuania, let's say Europe, France, UK, whatever. If you see a state or a country start buying a lot of Bitcoin, you can, and it's a powerful big state, you can assume that others are going to follow because it's just game theory. It's a big table and people don't want to be left out. The FOMO will work in the same way it does for states as it does on CT, just at a bigger level, right? So we're playing at a far bigger level than we ever have played, and so I'm not really interested in wondering, oh, okay, like is it going to dip like 5%, or is it going to dip 15%? Just being ready for the day that happens, just being able to commit until I feel as if the event is drawing closer. That we're close to a top, and what would a top be? I don't know. Maybe it's a round mark. We're at the total market cap right now is what? Yeah, it's like 1.5. It's 2.7 trillion, right? So let's say we get to 5 trillion, a nice round number, then maybe I'll reassess. As the event draws closer, I often say it's like tennis, right? This is a good way to end this little segment. Is when someone is playing tennis, yeah, so this is you, right? And someone hits the ball towards you, right? The ball is coming to your side of the net, but only as the event draws closer are you able to gain clarity on where to hit it back, right? And a lot of people at the moment are like, oh, the ball is here. And they're like, oh, I must hit it back. I must go to this side of the court. But the ball isn't anywhere near them yet, right? And so the question and the way I think is, if we're here in the cycle, it doesn't make sense to be looking at what's going to happen next week or the week after. It's only as things get euphoric and as the event draws stupidly close to you, which can be coordinated using many different things, such as euphoria. You look at inflows, you look at who's on the table, all the general contextual ideas that help us pinpoint a low or a high. It's when the event feels like it's drawing closer that it's time to get complicated. So that is really how I'm viewing BTC and altcoins in general. I'm using a principle-based approach, keeping it simple so that I'm not too smart enough to be stupid. That's really how I'm viewing the market at the moment.
Man, those were some pretty interesting analogies, man. So, man, this has been a great conversation. I guess the next thing that we can touch upon before we wrap up is, have you been hearing anyone from your side of the pond? Any normie friends hitting you up asking
Nope.
what token should I buy? Or you're not at that stage yet?
No, I haven't. Usually the prime indicator is my mother. She
Oh,
will text me and say, hey, have you seen the price of BTC, right?
man.
Or ask me like, oh, how is this crypto thing going? Because I see that BTC. When that happens, then then I think it's a good signal. But no, I haven't. Have you?
Oh boy. So I have this VC friend, and when Pepe made an all-time high yesterday, it's currently down like 25% from the high. He texted me and he said, "Hey, a buddy of mine just launched this AI coin on Solana." And then I said, "Brother, anytime you've hit me up, the top of crypto is usually within a few quarters. And the last time you hit me up, when you were starting to consistently ask me about crypto, was in February of 2021. And you'll know if you were in crypto in February of 2021, at that point, it started to become really PvP, right? A lot of ETH DeFi stuff already topped out.
Hmm.
Memes were going into their last parabolic leg. And, for the second half of 2021, if you weren't in L1s or gaming stuff or NFTs, you basically did nothing, right? You got outperformed by like a small portion of the market. So, I would say that like a lot of the top signals that we saw the last cycle, I think they're probably going to become the norm, right? You're going to have more normies
Mm.
inquiring about crypto. You're going to have more rappers and celebrities launching their own NFTs and all that stuff. And that's just a part of the growing market, right?
Mm.
And I
Mm.
think this has a potential of being crypto's .com bubble, where it's going to go up so much, so fast in such a short amount of time that everybody is going to know about it. And this time, they're not going to be able to ignore it. Because if you look at previous cycles, right, every top of a crypto cycle, there's always a main event blow off. In 2013, when BTC crossed $1,000, you had Warren Buffett talk about Bitcoin. He called it rat poison on national TV, while Kevin O'Leary was in that same table talking about how blockchain technology is going to change the world. And then in the end of 2017, early 2018, we saw the first, euphoria on Coinbase, where Coinbase was number one in the App Store in the iOS. So it was like retail started to know about crypto. And then in 2020, 2021, I mean, we saw it all over TikTok and YouTube, and Elon Musk was in SNL talking about Doge. And I feel like with this cycle, it's probably going to be all those things and then more. And excuse me, my dubious speculation is that there's probably going to be some like other grand event, right? Maybe like a crypto
Mm.
movie, a crypto
Mm.
NFT movie
Mm.
across worldwide theaters or
A
something
top
like that.
event, do you mean, right? Another grand top event, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it happens in 2021 as well towards the end. You remember when FTX bought that basketball arena?
Yeah, I remember very clear, very clearly.
Yeah. So I think the same is probably gonna happen, and I think the next bear market's probably going to be a lot quicker than previous bear markets because like dude, some people right now they think that BTC is still at 25K, 28K, and that Sam Bankman Fried is still running the show, right?
That's
So
very true. It's very,
yeah,
very true.
and I think that's why like you've still seen a lot of these indicators not pop off yet, right? Like we still haven't had Ethereum break all-time high. Solana hasn't broken all-time high. Total 3 hasn't broken all-time high. And as far as like liquidity goes, stablecoin market cap hasn't even eclipsed summer of 2022 levels. We have about a 7% pump away just to match the liquidity, just to match the liquidity factors that the crypto space had before. We're still not even there yet. I think the market cap at that point was 145. We're
Hmm.
currently at like 138, 139 bill. So, there is, Tether has to print, maybe over the next week or two we can get there, right? But just from that perspective, like a lot of people were honestly wiped out. And I feel like the people that have come in to replace that retail that got wiped out in 2022, I would say like 75% have been the big boys, and the other 25% have been people that have bought in Solana and downloaded a Phantom wallet and all that stuff. And, we've seen metrics to prove that, right? Like volume on Solana based decentralized exchanges and also new wallets downloaded and active wallets at times over the last quarter and a half have surpassed Ethereum, even on I think like on fees processed. That's how much people
Hmm.
are using Sol, and so I think there is a ways to go. And once these key metrics are hit, I think that's when we can probably see all the quote unquote top signals hit left and right, man. But
Hmm.
man, what are your thoughts on all this stuff before we wrap up?
Yeah, that's a good topic to wrap up on. The first thing I want to highlight is that, uh, you talked about top signals with Pepe and your friend and whatever. Um, I wouldn't be surprised if the alt market tops out here temporarily. I really wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if BTC pulled back another 20% and also shat the bed temporarily. I think that absolutely can happen. If you look at some charts, we're at an inflection point where things can either go bananas. So let me just show you this quickly. And I often commit in areas like this, but so if you look at Alluvium, this is a chart that I posted today. We're basically breaking a range, that we've been in for 2 years, right? And these are points of high committance. So this is where people start aping, but it's also where people can get trapped. So, I wouldn't be surprised if something like this made a dip and moved higher. Or, for example, look at Phantom, right?
Ooh, Phantom hit $1?
Yeah. Smashing it. I've been in Phantom quite a while, actually. It's doing well because of its Sonic. I think they've got Phantom Sonic upgrade. But if you look at this range, right? I'm not saying this happens, but I'm saying it's plausible that the monthly closes, right? So that we've moved into a monthly range here, and we come down intra-month to retest this level and then just move back higher. It could happen, but essentially, the question I always ask too when looking at these indicators that are people is it their first cycle or is it their second cycle? Because the indicator that was the new retail participant doesn't work the same way the second time, in my opinion. Yeah. So, if someone's been here twice, they're no longer considered, for me, the strongest level of indicator. It's usually the fresh individuals that I can consider that, For example, one friend hit me up recently and, he was FOMOing into everything. And the last cycle, I considered him retail, but this time he started FOMOing into everything just a little bit late, but still caught some of the gains, right? So that's an example. And what else was it that you discussed right now that I had to reply to? Lost track there.
Man, I think I just went on a big rant, brother. I just went on a big rant, right? Like, we're just kind of just summarizing everything that we touched upon, right? Like certain key metrics that haven't been hit yet and all that stuff. And, we still haven't hit certain levels of liquidity that we were in not
Yeah,
too
that
long
was it.
ago. Yeah,
That
yeah.
was it.
But
It will come. It will come. You were talking about sorry, I remembered it now. You were talking about the narratives, that cool tops. So you were talking about
oh
crypto,
yeah,
perhaps a crypto
lots of
movie, and then
yeah,
you're talking about reasons for liquidity to flow in. I absolutely
yeah.
think that's going to happen. Yeah, it's seeming more. It has to really. If these altcoins want to go higher, that's going to happen. We're going to have to open the floodgates for mania, and I think the initial thing that is going to inspire that is the thing I mentioned earlier on in this video, is that the best advertisement is number go up, right? So this is what causes reflexive bull markets, yeah? If
Yeah,
a number goes up, more people get involved, right? So as
yeah,
long as BTC is going up, I think we will eventually snowball into that mania phase again. And I don't see any other manifestation other than that phase will drag everyone into it, like you just said, right? That phase will drag it'd be impossible for people to ignore it because, as you said, they're warmed up for the past 3 cycles now, right? Initially, it was a scam, but they knew what it was. They were giving it attention, and then it was, oh, look at these gains, but ha 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 ha. They died. They all just went to zero. And then again in 2021, oh look, everything's going back up again. And now we have a green light via institutions,
yeah.
right? Big institutions. So
It's
I
like
don't think this time people can laugh at it in the same
yeah,
way. If it goes too high, if number goes up too much, then they're gonna be coming back for sure.
yeah. It's kind of like this time is actually real, right? You've got the ETF flows and all that stuff, and I think the Ethereum ETF is going to shock people because when we look at something like an Nvidia, right, we have to look at TradFi for these things just to get kind of like a hint of where things can go. Nvidia, once it broke its 2021 all-time high in the summer of last year, there were some trading sessions where Nvidia added the entire Ethereum market cap over one trading session overnight. And I think there's a case to be made for Ethereum, at
Mm-hmm.
least towards the tail end of the cycle against Bitcoin. Um, I think you're going to be able to see, ETH put in 40, 50% candles to the upside.
Mm-hmm.
But, Before we close off, man, I do want to show something very important to the audience. If you can pull up say USD, it's
Yeah.
one of these newer altcoins similar to Prime.
Finance
Right?
chart,
So
right?
yeah.
Got it.
So if we pull up say, right, monstrous, right? Look at that
Yeah.
weekly.
Great uptrend.
Absolutely monster. And off of the low that it hit at 9 cents, it's about, what, 11x off of its low. And when you take a look at its market cap and all that stuff, at best, say can probably go up 20x from here. So, with some of these newer charts, like a say, like a prime, yeah, you're getting in, at the right time, but you're not early. But at the same time, you're not late. I would say like where say is right now is kind of like buying Rune before it broke out to the parabola phase in Q4 of
Bruno.
2020, where it was, if you go back to like Q4 2020 for Rune, it was just ping ponging from like 25 to 30 cents. And then going into 2021, Rune just pulled off a monstrous move.
Yeah.
And when Rune came out, it actually
So
came
here,
out
right?
on the Binance. Yeah. If you actually look at the Binance Dex chart for Rune, Rune was at like half a penny, right? So the thing to keep in mind here is that with some of these fresher charts that have been rallying, they're up quite a bit from the lows that they had last year. But you're at the opportune time where like a lot of attention is on these names. And so I think with some of these newer names, right? Like I know we discussed gaming in the
Mm-hmm.
gaming sector, the Because Bitcoin community has really been eyeing My Pet Hooligan and their token
Yeah.
Carrot.
Mm-hmm.
And, we're of the belief here, Because Bitcoin, as well as myself, we think Carrot is likely going to do something that Axie Infinity did, just because it has a virality effect, right?
Mm.
Like they have a huge cult community on Twitch, just like Prime does. And, typically before you get into some of these newer tokens, I always like to look at, all right, if I'm bullish on gaming, right? I'm bullish on this gaming token. Is this sector already trending? And you take a look at things like Beam, right? They're a subnet on AVAX. If you take a look at Prime, right? If you take a look at even old tokens from last cycle like Cetify, they've been running like crazy. Even things on Solana like Crown, right? These things have been running like crazy. So I think for something like a Carrot, I think that's a token that My Pet Hooligan is going to have. The stage is already set, and it's going to run off of the tail of what's already running. So, one thing that I would say that the market is efficient in is giving you clear signal. It's no longer, like in
Mm.
2017, 2019, where it's like, let me log on to KuCoin and just ape a random ticker because I saw a random influencer talk about it, right? I think the access to information is a lot more clear, but at the same time, it's still not as diluted.
Yeah,
So
completely agree. I completely agree with the Carrot token. So did you finish what you were going to say? Because I've just jumped
yeah,
in.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, the Carrot token is literally the condensation of Web3 narrative.
If you want, man, you can pull up
Yeah,
the
let me
My
get
Pet
the screen up.
Hooligan.
Yeah, let me
Yeah,
get the screen up.
The My Pet Hooligan website, man. I'm really excited for that one. I think their TGE is in a few weeks, right around the halving. So,
So this
man,
is the
they had
condensation of an
oh yeah,
explosive Web3 project in a token, and it's the most. I can't even find the right words to describe how bullish I am on this. Like
yeah,
this is probably one of the biggest Web3 gaming tokens we're going to see in this cycle. Yeah.
yeah,
Because as you said, so I'll just play the trailer for the audience. It was like 5 seconds.
yeah. 1 minute. All right, let's check this out, man. There we go.
Calling all hooligans. Let's get it. Launch. Lego. Mount up, be straight, get home, be safe.
Bro,
My
come
team, we
on,
already
man.
no razor, we ain't. You already know me, some hooligans. What am I to be but a hooligan? Catch me in the street with the hooligans. See
I played the game as well. It's extremely addictive. Couldn't stop playing it.
Man, this is a cook. This is a cook, baby.
We AK deep in the street with a fleet, made a 6K drop to his knee, but believe this way you call anarchy. On the rise, strategize every move, Louis ride, don't care where back you from, or how much dirt you done, we on the takeover, speak aside. Mount up, be straight, get home, be safe. My team, we don't play them Rays or we ain't. You already know me, some hooligans. With them out of deep, but the hooligan. Catch me in the street with them hooligans. Say you down for the couch, Mount up,
Bro, let's go, man.
My team, we don't play them Rays or we ain't. You already know me, some hooligans. With them out of deep, but the hooligan. Catch me in the street with them hooligans. Say you down for the couch, gotta prove it.
Take my money, man.
Quite
Take
literally.
my money.
Quite
Take my
literally.
money.
So this is why, for anyone listening or watching, we just put on the MyPet Hooligan gameplay video.
Yeah.
And I've played that game. So the reason why I'm so bullish on that is primarily because when I started playing it, I couldn't put it down. The IP is the only IP that matches a Disney type game. So it's applicable for kids and adults because I couldn't stop playing it, right? The dopamine hooks in the game are fantastic. The brand is excellent. They have sponsorships and a team which you can't mess with. They have an incredible studio. They have backing from all the gamers. So as you said, the signals are actually clear, and they're becoming more and more clear as the market evolves, because it's no longer an industry, where we can just put up a white paper and everyone will ape. That was the climate in 2016, 2017. Yeah, stuff was going 200%. It's so funny to say, but things were going 200% just based on a new white paper, right? As we evolve, and as you mentioned earlier on, the space is much more mature now, and so the signals do have to be more clear, because the same old scams, they don't work anymore. It's getting to the maturity stage where we want to see real shit, right? And if we don't, then we're just going to commit to something that is providing that for us, And unfortunately, the scams, they're still here, but they're struggling they're struggling to make way in this current climate. You do get many shitcoins at the moment pumping, but I'm talking about big projects with big liquidity on centralized exchanges. Those signals are clear. We don't have many of those as scams anymore. So completely agree with you on MyPet Hooligan. It's my number one pick for the entire Web3 gaming.
All right, man. I think that's a good place to wrap up. Leave some people with some excitement, something to look forward to, man. And hopefully we can connect a few months after their token is out, and maybe it does like a 20x or a 30x, baby. So I think this is a good place to wrap up, man. Any final words, brother, that you want to say before we close up shop?
Not really. I just want to encourage people to think about the quote. Be smart enough to be simple. I think for anyone listening, that is how I can help and provide value to you, is by turning your attention to this quote. Because when we traverse these financial markets, and especially crypto, we think that overcomplication necessarily leads to better results, short term, long term, but it doesn't. It doesn't, right? You don't want to confuse yourself on the way to the top. You just want to make sure that you're riding it out in the most efficient manner. And apart from that, I want to say thank you for hosting me again here, bro. I appreciate the conversation. I think it was very fun for me to be able to share my thoughts like this. And it's definitely a good time to, be talking again, just as BTC has moved over all-time high. So,
yeah, man. So where can people find you, man? And thanks for coming on again, brother. Where can people find you?
So people can find me, number one, my Twitter. So twitter.com/CryptoShadow OFF. So I'll get it on screen now.
Yeah, I just put your screen back up.
1 second. Okay, so here's my Twitter. If you want to give me a follow, I'm always posting some good stuff on my feed, CryptoShadow OFF. And I also run a network, and this network is called Tier 7, and it's a whitelisted network. At current, we have around 300 whales inside. It's basically a place that is difficult to get into, but if you get in, then it's a place where we all collaborate in order to extract the most money out of the market as we can, and leverage the combined power of everyone in the network for the benefit of all. So those are my 2 plugs. And yeah, that is all I wanted to share. So appreciate you having me on, bro. It was great to be here.
No doubt, man. So, guys, thank you all so much for tuning in. This is King Wabi from Because Bitcoin. Just got wrapped up with the first edition for Market Watch. It's basically going to be a pre-recorded stream. It's essentially going to be just like our Market Rant segment that's hosted every Thursday by myself. But yeah, Market Watch is going to be pre-recorded because I do have some guests that I do want to bring on the shows, but because of some time differences, I'm not able to bring them on at 2 p.m. EST. So thank you guys so much for tuning in for the last hour or so. If you guys enjoy this content, go ahead and smash that like button. Smash, and also subscribe for more. I'll be uploading content here on the Because Bitcoin YouTube channel every Saturday and Sunday. And I'll also be live streaming once again at Thursday at 2 p.m. EST. So hope you guys have enjoyed the content for Because Bitcoin, our YouTube live streams with Tommy and Max and Will with Market Check. And then, of course, shout out to our Twitter community who tunes into my show, Market Talk, which is hosted Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 4:30 p.m. EST. So thank you all so much. This is Market Watch once again with King Wabi from Because Bitcoin, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care, bye-bye, and God bless you all.